Hey guys, how are you? Usually I'm very happy and excited to be here, but I'm very sad and heartbroken that another school shooting has occurred. And I want to thank Sinner for letting me know because I was at work today. It was our second day back and it was very busy, so I didn't see it until I left. And initial reports were 4 deceased, 30 plus injured. And then on my way home, I listened to, I think it was Fox News, and they were reporting 4 deceased, 9 injured, which is still 4 too many deceased and 9 too many injured. And it's sad that this happens and that even myself, every day that I walk into school, it's always in the back of my mind, always. Even though we have metal detectors, even though it's like a TSA line, you never know. You never know. And, there's all different accounts. So I'm hoping that the press conference that is scheduled for 4, and I'm going to actually just add this so we have this on the screen. The press conference was scheduled for 4, which I believe is Eastern. So I did watch a few videos, a few student accounts of what happened, and I looked at some headlines. I looked at Twitter quickly. One thing I noticed is I believe CNN is getting a lot wrong, even though there was a press conference, which wasn't earlier, like a quick presser that wasn't much. It's just really sad. It's just really sad. And it's especially sad because it is being reported that one of the victims was a math teacher, specifically a special education math teacher. And that hits even closer to my heart because I'm also a math teacher. So, there's reports that the school received a phone call this morning that 5 of the schools in this district were going to be targeted, theirs being the first. Again, that was, I believe I saw that headline on CNN. So a lot of things that at this point I'm going to call speculation, except for the fact that the Georgia Bureau of Investigation has confirmed that 4 are deceased, 9 have been injured. So I'm going to turn this. Let's see. Oh, nope, that's not what I wanted. All of my things are all messed up. My layouts, some of my layouts are missing. What the heck? What the heck? Okay, well, I guess we're just going to do this because news layout. Okay. Sorry, I keep doing this. Some of my layouts completely disappeared. I have no idea why. Okay. So let's take a listen.
Legislative session, so things are good for 2 years, but that ended after last session did, and so these will have to be completely reintroduced again starting next session when it begins this winter, and so it's really, again, too early for a lot of lawmakers to comment at.
Okay, so they're just talking about, give me 1 second. I want to see, I might have done something myself. I really don't like this layout. Here we go. All right, I think I found it. I think I figured it out. Nope, that's not it. What in the world? Ah, there we go. Okay, I don't know why it made me do that. Let I just wanted to also read this comment. My cousin goes here, and I have a lot of friends with kids that go there. They are traumatized. This is so heartbreaking. I'm so sick of seeing these reports. I agree. I agree. Seeing all the news stations are putting kids that experience this tragedy. And in some way, I know that it, possibly, it's not always necessarily the right thing to do, but in some way, I believe it's therapeutic for the students to talk about what they saw, talk about what they heard, to have their voice heard. Because one student that I had listened to, and I do have a couple of clips to play after the press conference, excuse me, one of the students had said initially they were told it was a drill, which there are times, and I can only speak for my district, but there are times that we are told when we're going to have a lockdown drill, because that way we know it's a drill. However, there are other times where we are told you're going to have a lockdown drill sometime in the next 2 weeks. So say something like this happens, we may assume that it's just a drill because we were told by administrators that we were expecting to have a drill. Not to say that this is what happened in this case, but one of the students had said, initially they said it was just a drill, but then we started hearing gunshots and people running and screaming. And that's when we knew it was real. So, it's just, I don't know. I don't even know what to say. So let's just take a listen.
In custody, that suspect is alive, and we speculate, well, we believe now that they would be speaking with law enforcement. They are trying to get as much information from that person as possible. Some of that information may come out in a news conference that we do expect to happen in the next 4 or 5 minutes or so.
It's a
The Barrow County
beautiful
Sheriff's
campus
Office
too.
says they plan to give us more information. Barrow County Sheriff Judd Smith.
Hey, Cocoa Puff, and thanks everybody for being here, everyone listening. Narcos,
not much. They were just trying to gather those details and make sure they had the most.
But I did hear someone say, our thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families, with those affected, etc. And I know this is pessimistic, but thoughts and prayers aren't going to stop this from happening. Sadly, we have a mental illness crisis in this country. A lot of things, and in the training we had today, it was about more classroom behavior management type stuff. And the trainer actually said, it's time we stop blaming C-19. Because a lot of what the justification is, kids, and I agree, kids lost a lot during C-19. The online school, not socializing, being at home, not being able to go to different places. But we're several years out now. So I think it's time to shift our thinking with that. And I did see, Bambi, and CNN was reporting that a 14-year-old did this. However, I have also seen on Twitter, which take it as you will, people are claiming it's a transgender woman. Others are claiming it's some other older person. They looked probably 20s. Maybe late teens, like 19, 18-ish. One of the news stations that I listened to had said one of the student witnesses said they didn't know who the shooter was, but that it was an older student that was friends with someone who had already graduated. So lots of stories going around, and that's why I'm glad that law enforcement is doing a press conference at this point, because there's a lot of speculation, a lot of rumors. And I'm trying to think what the attempted Trump assassination. They had on Twitter, there were people posting photos of someone and they weren't even the culprit. So here you have these innocent persons being plastered all over social media when they had nothing to do with what happened. So I think it's definitely irresponsible and not okay to do things like that. Hey, Wise Angel, how are you? Actually, let me get to that comment. I was on a different... Yeah, we shouldn't have to worry about our children being killed going to school. I agree. And one of the reporters had said, these parents said goodbye to their kids this morning, said, have a great day. I'll see you when you get home. And some of those parents aren't going to see their kids. Some of those wives or husbands, depending on who the victims are, it's being posted that it has been verified that a math teacher was killed.
News here at 4. I'm Sean Gables along with Blair Miller. We are in Winder, right outside of Appalachian High School, where 4 students have been killed in a school shooting. There is a lot of traffic here, heavy police presence, and parents rushing, park their cars, some of them in the middle of the streets, just to be reunited with their children.
As we see school buses show up here off in the distance, there are many questions as to what happened in this small, knit, close community here today where this shooting has taken place. We're waiting for a news conference to begin here outside the school here. It's scheduled for 4 o'clock. They ran an update a little earlier, a couple of hours ago, and said they would be giving us an update with more answers to what there are so many questions in this community about what happened here today.
And there has been such a huge community outpouring that is happening at this hour. We've just learned within the last 15 minutes that there is a huge prayer vigil that has been set here in Winder.
This will be taking place at the Winder United Methodist Church. They've opened up their house of worship for today and into the evening so people in this community have a place to go. There are about 1,900 students who go to school here, and you can imagine this community is only about 20,000. And so when something like this happens, it certainly has quite an impact on not just the school, but the neighborhoods around it and our entire country.
And there are a lot of rumors and a lot of communication that is being spread on social media.
I agree,
a lot of it is not vetted, unconfirmed. We are awaiting that press conference to happen within this hour from law enforcement and also from the school district regarding who the 4 fatalities are. Who are the 9 students that have been injured?
We also hope to get more information on the suspect, who we understand is in custody and is alive. That information coming to us from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation today. But who is that shooter is the question many people have. Is it a student at this school? And what happened in the moments leading up to this to get us to where we are right now?
And the other questions is just the security of the school. We have spoken to many of the eyewitnesses here. We had heard from a 10th grader who told us that the minute the shooting happened inside Appalachian High School, that the doors to her classroom, she was next to where the shooting was happened, immediately locked on their own. The teacher turned off the lights. The students were rushed into the corner of the room and to shield together to avoid any gunfire from hitting them. No one hit them inside that classroom, but she said that when they walked out, when everything was settled, the dust had settled and they were allowed to leave the room, she saw many injuries, a lot of bloodshed on the floor, students with visible injuries, a lot of blood.
And seeing the faces of these 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders is just so heartbreaking to see, what they're going through. This is the 4th week of school. This should be a celebration for this community, for these students who are starting the year. But now this year is marked by what has happened here today. So many questions about what happened. I know you've been at these situations before. I was in Uvalde, I've been at Virginia Tech, and the amount of grief that hangs over these communities, it's so hard to get it across to people at home who may be watching this, because we all hurt when we see these kinds of things happen. And when we talk to people about how they've been impacted, especially the students impacted here today.
And we have seen this, as you mentioned, Blair, time and time again. And the question, many parents have sent emails to our station. when is this going to end? This is a political conversation that's leading into the November election. A lot of local legislators have already given comments, including Senator Raphael Warnock. And so we will make sure those are posted on our website at atlantanewsfirst.com. But our Chelsea Binepour, she is out on location. And Chelsea, you've been asking questions about the injuries, about the students. What have you learned so far?
Yeah, we're on Tom Miller Road. This is about a half a mile from the school. This is where we have been today as parents have been picking up their children and bringing them down this street to get back up to where they parked about a mile away. We did speak with a mother and daughter. The daughter was a 15-year-old sophomore here at Appalachia High School. She says when those shots rang out and that lockdown went into place, she immediately texted her mom. She said, "I love you. There's a lockdown. There might be a shooting going on." She said her mom replied right away and said, "I'm coming from work to get you." And then that student told us that she passed her cell phone around to other students in her class so they could also text their parents and let them know that they were okay. So eventually she described that police came and they were escorted outside safely to the football field. We know then her mom got to be reunited with her about 2 hours later. They described that very emotional reunion. We have an interview from them that'll be coming up a little bit later. But again, this is a road just past the school where people have been getting back to their cars this afternoon. We have seen a little bit more traffic coming down the street here. It was closed for most of the day, but it looks like police have reopened it down there for flow of traffic, guys.
Just to recap of what we have learned so far, we know here at Appalachia High School there has been a shooting. 4 students, or not students, 4 people. They have not identified yet who has been killed, nor the individuals who have been hurt. We know that at least 9 people are hurt. There is going to be a press conference. Our CNN is reporting, that is one of our affiliate stations. CNN is reporting that there was a phone call that was made to Appalachia High School this morning, warning that 5 schools were being targeted for gunfire and that Appalachia High School would be the first. There's a lot of questions to still unfold, and that will be questions we'll be asking at this press conference.
Now, our understanding of the timeline looking back on this is that this all started around 9:30 this morning here at this school, and ever since then, parents have been showing up here trying to be reunited with some of their children, some of the students here at this school. And you may not be able to see here behind us, but there's a football stadium off in the distance. That's where they took many of the students, as we saw from First Alert Chopper that was over the scene there. And that's where many of the students were held until they could be reunited with their parents, which has been such a process, as you can imagine. You have the high school out here, but you also have a preschool right across the street. You have a middle school right nearby. And so you can imagine the crush of people that show up here when something like this happens. They just want to make sure their children are okay and alive.
And I know our Madeline Montgomery is also on location. And Madeline, I don't know if you can show the perspective, but it is an absolute traffic jam. On our way to getting here, I know you're in Gwinnett County, but on our way to approaching Winder, which is about 60 miles northeast of Atlanta, it is it's clogged up. Parents are rushing to pick up their children. The lockdown was released within the last hour and a half. And so, Madeline, tell us, what are you seeing in Gwinnett County?
Sean, I'm actually over here in Barrow County. I'm over here at the hospital at Northeast Georgia Medical Center here in Barrow County. And what I've seen is a different kind of traffic jam, because this is the spot, I'm being told by the public relations specialist here with the hospital, that there are several of the victims of the shooting here at this hospital. And we've seen a number of people who look high school age going into this facility. I spoke with a man who works at the supermercado across the street who says he's never seen so many people at this hospital before, so many police at this hospital before. And according to the public relations expert here, she says that there are 6 total victims here at this location that they have with Northeast Georgia Medical Center. She says 2 of the victims at this location are gunshot victims. And she says that their Brazelton location has 1 victim that is not a gunshot victim. And at their level 1 trauma center in Gainesville, they have 1 gunshot victim. And she says that all of the gunshot victims that their facilities have do not have life-threatening injuries. So that's good news. Though they were shot, they are believed to be able to survive those injuries. And then she says that all of the other victims they have that are not gunshot injuries, but are inside of their facilities, so inside of the Northeast Georgia Medical Center facilities, are people who are suffering from panic attacks or anxiety symptoms. So that's what brought them to the hospital. And so again, we're here at the Barrow County location, and we've seen an influx of people just coming into here, going into the emergency room. We've seen police cars outside of there. We've seen people that look about teenage who going in and out, and just a number of families going inside and confirming with the folks who work at businesses in this area that it's just a lot more people than they're used to seeing out here at this time. For now, reporting live out here in Wine-Durham, Madeline Montgomery, Atlanta News First.
Madeline, thank you for the update there. And it brings up a good point, because we talk about the injuries from this shooting that took place here today, but as some have been pointing out, their injuries may not be from the shooting. You don't know what was happening in some of these classrooms or in the hallways as students were rushing to get out. Some students said they were running and they saw other students running, and so it'd be interesting to see, what was happening and all the chaos that was happening inside the school at the time of all this.
Well, again, Georgia is now thrust back into the national spotlight, not for a reason that we're proud of. This school shooting is capturing the attention of many political candidates. I know Doug Reardon is outside of the state's capital.
All right, so I am just going to pause because I haven't really been giving much commentary. So in accordance to fair use, and I did see some comments that I wanted to address. So for those of you just coming in, we are waiting for the press conference that was scheduled for 4 p.m. Eastern. So that is what we are awaiting. True Jedi had said, we are also telling our children and teachers that they aren't worth the expense of metal detectors and perimeter security. That has to do with budgets. So, if the funding isn't there, the metal detectors and such won't be. Where I work, we have not, thankfully, a gun has not gotten through the security, but we have had several knives. And how they got through the metal detectors is another story, but thank goodness they were located and confiscated, because who knows what may have happened. Oh, wow, Mickey, there was only 89 kids in your graduating class, and it's still about the same. We don't have huge schools around here. Hey, Grandma Sherry. Yeah, Pookie. I say it all the time. Kids don't know how to use their words, and they don't have the coping skills necessary to express their emotions. And I can't speak for this shooter. I don't know what was in their head, only they do. But to resort to this type of violence is, I can never understand it, because when I get really pissed off, I start yelling and swearing. I might throw stuff, but never would I think, let me go get a weapon and kill people, ever. It's crazy. Yeah, I remember hall monitors. We had, oh gosh, what was his name? When I was in high school, we had a hall monitor, and he was so cool. He was an older guy. He had retired, and then he came back to work. And yeah, I mean, we were where we were supposed to be, right? I mean, the hall monitor was enough. Now we have, where I'm at, we have security officers. We have, a school police officer. It's just different. Hey, Sunnyside, thanks for being here. Hey, Green, good to see you. Wise Angel, what you had mentioned class size. What are class sizes over there on average? What would you say? How many in a class? Resource officers. So resource officers, at least to my understanding here in New York State, resource officers are usually police officers who are school. So they're the school resource officer. So they're resources for the school. So their assignment would be the school. Yes. Yesterday was actually my first day. Today was my second day, but the students come in tomorrow. So that should be exciting. Lots of new students this year based on my rosters. So it'll be interesting to see how the dynamics change, how, I'm knock on wood, but I'm sure there's going to be some beefs tomorrow, because it always seems like when everybody comes back from summer break, there's always those issues that weren't resolved at the end of last year. And what I've heard is that there's been issues over the summer. Kids have, had their tiffs over the summer as well. So it's all going to be coming into the schools. So let's go back to this.
Many of the students were immediately rushed or evacuated out of the building back to the stadium.
Funky,
and they
thanks
said
for
that
being here.
they were told to get out so
the
quickly
next
that a lot of them
county.
left their phones behind
I can't
and had no
imagine.
way to communicate with their parents to let them know that they were okay. But I do want to share one piece of video with you. After speaking with a student that heard the gunfire, we have permission from her mother to show this video. She got out her cell phone and shot some footage as law enforcement officers rushed into the classroom. They were wearing tactical gear. They were armed. They came in to make sure that all the students were accounted for. Also, you will probably see with this footage, they go out into the hallway as they're escorting some of these students out and trying to evacuate them out of the building. There were several law enforcement officers armed in the hallway as well. It was very chaotic and very terrifying. One can only imagine, what this might do to a child to witness and experience something so traumatic. But we hope to gain some new information about what led to all of this. I've reported now several times, based on some students' testimony to me, is that there were no metal detectors. So that's something I'm sure that might come up. We also want to know about the school resource officers. Were they on duty? Were they here at the school at the time of this? What was their response? Did they see this happening? So a lot of questions still remain, but a very difficult day for so many in this community, and any parent for that matter, that has to hear about something like this happen, especially when it happens in their school to their child. We will have new information for you, hopefully here within the next 15 to 20 minutes, guys.
And Adam, before we let you go, I just want to ask you this question. CNN is reporting this now, and it is drawing a lot of ire from parents in this community. And according to law enforcement, there was a phone call that was made to Appalachia High School early this morning, alerting the school staff that there would be 5 school shootings, and Appalachia High School would be one of the first. There's still no determination who made that phone call, who accepted the phone call, and if the school took any proactive steps. I know that you'll be asking those questions too.
Well, certainly. And if that really happened, then one would think immediately you would place all of the schools that were mentioned on lockdown until that could be vetted and cleared.
I wouldn't say lockdown.
We don't know if that happened here. We know just after 9:30, that's when reports came in to law enforcement about an active shooter in the school here at Appalachia High School in Barrow County. We don't know, though, exactly when that lockdown was activated. Was it activated immediately after receiving that call, or was it activated once the shooter had access to the building? That's a very important question. We need to know that timeline as well. To that point, I will say I spoke with a parent of a child that attended the elementary school, which is nearby. He was in the area because they were on lockdown as well when all of this took place. And he was waiting to reunite with his child. And he mentioned the same thing. He mentioned that he had heard reports that there might be shootings involving multiple schools in the area. So that is certainly something that will be brought up during this news briefing, and we hope to get some new information and some answers for you as soon as authorities address the podium.
And I just wanted to, I'm going to leave this running, but he had mentioned about, phone call coming in and saying that, 5 schools would be targeted. They would be the first. I don't know the procedures in Georgia, but speaking from New York, we wouldn't necessarily from a phone call be put into lockdown. However, we would be put into a lockout, which means no one leaves the building or comes in the building. So how this person was able to get into the building, I would love to know. I would also think that if they had something like that information, they would have a hold in place, which means students are not allowed to leave the classroom until that hold in place is over. But again, I don't know what Georgia's protocol is. I just don't believe that a phone call would constitute putting the school into a lockdown. I would say hold in place and lock out. Again, that's just my opinion.
For this press conference to give you brand new
Based on
information.
experience.
And it could stay a crime scene for a while. I remember being in Uvalde, Texas.
Oh my gosh, Grandma Sherry, that's terrible.
A very long time.
Yeah, the threats are.
So investigators could go in there and go from classroom to.
I mean, even I did this story about that kid, and I can't remember. I believe he was in South Carolina. I can't remember, but the kid who had called in over 20 calls, swatting calls, they called them, that there was going to be a school shooting. Over 20. I don't understand why. I'm never going to understand why.
Those questions we hope to get answered tonight before families try to determine what they're going to do. They have jobs. They have to go to work. What do we do with our kids tomorrow? Those answers we don't have yet, but we are certainly asking them.
Sean, the reality is that this community is suffering in a major way because there are a number of loved ones who will not be coming home tonight to their families. And you think back to the start of this day. It is a beautiful day here in the Atlanta area, a nice breeze. It couldn't be more picturesque and more of a beautiful day here in our city and in our community. And to know that it's been tarnished by what we know right now and the information that is still yet to come, that could break all of our hearts.
And what we do know so far, if you're just joining our coverage, is that 4 people have been shot dead at Appalachia High School. We are awaiting a press conference to find out exactly who those individuals are. We also know that 9 people are injured in local hospitals. I know, Savannah Louie, you were at the breaking news desk. You've just learned brand new information. What have you learned?
Well, we are now hearing from leaders across the country, including Vice President Kamala Harris. She spoke at a campaign event earlier today in New Hampshire, where she called for an end to the epidemic of gun violence. Take a listen.
But this is just a senseless tragedy on top of so many senseless tragedies. And it's just outrageous that every day in our country, in the United States of America, that parents have to send their children to school worried about whether or not their child will come home alive. It's senseless. It is, we've got to stop it. And we have to end this epidemic of gun violence in our country once and for all.
And Harris ended by saying, quote, "It doesn't have to be this way, guys."
Savannah, thanks so much. And the word senseless comes to mind for so many people when they talk about this.
Completely
and this community,
senseless.
we were talking earlier how it will be some time till this community can get past this. Right now, they're still very much trying to digest it. As you and I both arrived here, you couldn't help but see parents and students.
And they're still walking.
Yeah, walk right off camera there. And you see them, and I can't imagine what's going through their minds. And I know we both have kids, and when you think about something like this, we all worry about getting that call.
Well, we spoke with an eyewitness earlier today, a 10th grader, and I almost broke down. It's so hard when you hear these stories and you see that there are so many school districts that are trying to make children focus on their classroom studies, and they're taking away their cell phones. But what we heard today was the cell phone was a lifeline for a 10th grader who texted her mother and said, I don't know if I'm going to make it out here alive. I am scared, but I want you to know that I love you. She made it out okay. But there are other students, there's other people that we don't know if they did. We do know that 4 people have died. The community has rallied around the community of Appalachia High School, and also this is impacting not just the high school, but the middle school, the elementary school, and Winder Methodist Church is going to hold a prayer vigil and just a gathering for families to come together, vet this out. Express your emotions, because this is a senseless tragedy.
Sure, and you have to think, how do parents?
And just quickly, she had mentioned the text message, and I wanted to show that. So again, this is from Twitter. I am going to say that this is what they were referring to. This is the only one that I've seen. And so today, 10:23 a.m., the student says, school shooting right now. I'm scared. Please, I'm not joking. Parent, and it looks like it was mom. Mom responds, I'm leaving work. Student says, I love you. Mom says, love you too, baby. Where are you? Student responds, class, someone's dead. Mom says, I just saw ambulance and police heading that way. And I'm sure there were many text messages like that. And New York State, our governor, they are looking to ban cell phones in schools. Several schools around me have banned cell phones. My district has not. Ours has not. But we do have a cell phone policy that says you should not have your cell phones out during class. You can have them on your person. You can have them stowed away, but you should not be on them. And I think that's good enough. But it is becoming problematic in some instances. So I can understand why schools are banning them. But then you think about these situations, and cell phones are imperative. Some parents, when they evacuated, I heard another report say, when they evacuate, you don't take anything with you because it's now a crime scene. You get out. So a lot of students left their cell phones behind and weren't able to contact their family to let them know. So I can't even imagine. Hey, Deez, how are you? Yeah, the kids are always going to get around it. All right, let's see
We're closing off those roads. And so what you have.
Okay, so while we're waiting, I do have a quick video that I had wanted to share after, but it does seem they're running a little behind, which is understandable, of course. And this was a 14-year-old who described what was heard and seen. And it's heartbreaking.
I got up, I started running. He started shooting like 10 times. He shot at least 10 times. And then I ran to the back of the classroom. I dived behind the desk, and my teacher had got in front of me like he was guarding. But like the gunshots were so close to me, like my ears started ringing real bad. Like the whole classroom was smoking, like, and everything. And then when he finally got out of the classroom, my teacher started barricading the door with desks and bookshelves and all that. And then I had got up. I had saw one of my classmates on the ground bleeding so bad. And then when I had moved myself.
Yeah, and this kid, you can tell he is in shock. Again, understandable. He witnessed something horrific in class where a lot of students, that is their safe place. School is their safe place. And now that sacred ground has been destroyed. They're not going to feel safe at school anymore. And that's really, really sad.
To the other side of the room, because the bookshelf I was hiding behind, it was right in front of the door. So I had moved to the other side, to like this side with my friend. I was checking on my other friend because he got grazed in his leg. And then there was a white girl that was in front of me. She got shot in her leg and stuff. And then my other friend got shot in her stomach. And it was just so sad, stuff like that.
Are you okay?
Yes, ma'am.
That's a lot to process.
And the fact that they asked this little kid, "Are you okay?" Visibly, just reading body language, the student is not okay. They're not okay. But I am very, it's nice to hear her say, "I know this is a lot to process." Because it is.
And you're so young. You're how old?
14.
That's so much to have to process in class where you're supposed to feel safe.
Yeah.
Exactly.
How are you doing now? I mean, what's going through your mind?
Like, it just keep replaying back in my head. I just thank God that I wasn't the one that got hit, you know. Like, in the midst of all of it happening, I was just thanking God because, you know, he had his hands around me and stuff like that. Because I could have been the one that got hit because I was right there. He could have easily got me, but God had his hands around me.
Ugh. Right. And, you know, it did look like there was someone behind him rubbing his arm. So I'm not sure if that was a family member or it could have been another student. There looked like there were students behind that little kid. But just
when she came out of the classroom, when everything had settled, she said that she saw a lot of injuries. We know that the press
here comes
conference
law
Blair, it is
enforcement.
about to start here shortly. Law enforcement is now starting to approach the podium. There are going to be a lot of questions, particularly the one of a lot of concern for us in our newsroom is, was there a phone call made to Appalachia High School before school started, warning district administrators and the school personnel that there would be a school shooting at 5 different schools and that Appalachia would be the first?
Law enforcement gave an update a little earlier. We're expecting a lot more details on what they know, the latest information, but what we were hearing is that 4 people shot and killed here at Appalachia High School. And we look over our shoulder, you can see this large law enforcement presence that is on its way. It is a slow walk, a very deliberate walk from Appalachia High School, where there has been this tragedy, to these cameras, where they will be offering some new insight into what they've learned here. And you can only imagine what's the tales from inside that store.
I am just watching the body language,
Yeah.
Blair. Just the body language alone is giving me a sense that the tone is going to, number one, be somber. We do know that there were 4 people killed. The question is, will they have the next of kin been notified, and will they share that information? But it's a very deliberate walk. The faces are somber. They're actually looking down at the ground while they're walking. I anticipate that this press conference, it may be gut wrenching. Law enforcement, they've seen what they've seen inside of the school. We don't know what type of weapon was used, at what point, how close was the student when they shot the victims? Was it at point range? This crime scene is massive, and what they have seen is probably unthinkable. But as they approach the podium, we're preparing to hear their statement.
We know local law enforcement is here. We know the FBI is here. GBI is here as this news conference is about to get underway. And as they start to take the podium and give us an update, let's go ahead and take it live now as this is about to begin.
Director of the Georgia Grill investigation. And we wanted to come back this afternoon and present you with a little more of a timeline of the events that have taken place here today and what we know up to this point with the investigation. At approximately 10:20 a.m. this morning, the Broward County Sheriff's Office received alerts about reports of an active shooter and radio traffic from school resource officers concerning the same concern, or having the same concern. Within minutes, law enforcement was on scene, as well as 2 school resource officers assigned here to the school, who immediately encountered the subject within just minutes of this report going out. Once they encountered the subject immediately surrendered to these officers, and he was taken into custody. Additionally, what I want you to know as of now, there are 4 individuals who are deceased from this incident. 9 that have been taken to local hospitals with various injuries. Of those that are deceased, 2 were students and 2 were teachers
Ugh.
here at the school. The priority right now for us within this investigation is to gather all the facts, to make sure that we're accurate with it, because this is a murder investigation. As the sheriff mentioned earlier this morning, the shooter is in custody. His name is Colt, that's C-O-L-T, Gray. He is a 14-year-old student here at the school, G-R-A-Y. He is a 14-year-old student here at the high school.
Oh my
Again,
God.
he has been taken into custody. He will be charged with murder, and he will be tried as an adult.
Good.
Handled as an adult. We're coordinating these charges, and obviously this investigation with District Attorney Brad Smith, who is the District Attorney for the Piedmont Judicial Circuit here. Since earlier this morning we talked with you, and since the incident occurred, numerous interviews have been taking place through our investigation with students, faculty, as well as any other witnesses that we could identify. Law enforcement had a very, very swift response to this incident once the incident was determined that there was a concern here. Those resources, whether it was in that response or throughout this investigation to assist, came obviously from the sheriff's office here, from other local law enforcement agencies, state law enforcement agencies, and federal law enforcement agencies as well. To include, not to be left out, multiple EMS personnel, multiple fire personnel, and agencies. Those agencies responded here as well today, and I am extremely grateful, as I know the sheriff is, for that quick response and the partnerships of working here together with what all has gone on. Currently, from the investigative perspective, we have crime scene agents and other special agents from the GBI, from close to a dozen of our different work units from across the state that have responded here today to work on this investigation, again, collecting evidence, conducting interviews, and so forth. I do want to pass this along, that if anyone has any information that wants to be passed on concerning this investigation, that they can do that anonymously at our tip line at 1-800-597-TIPS or 1-800-597-8477. They can also report this on by downloading the See Something, Send Something app. That can be done by Android or Apple phones, either one. If they need to report any tips concerning this investigation. Let me close out before I turn this over to the sheriff, and let you just remind you that this is still a very active investigation. There is still a lot that is very fluid. There's still a lot of interviews to be conducted that will continue on into the night, as well as crime scene work and collecting and gathering evidence. But what is more important for me to mention here to you is my heartfelt sympathy to the parents, the students that were here today. Regardless of where they were in the school, this has got a great impact on them as well as on this community. My thoughts and prayers, along with everybody standing behind me and every law enforcement agency in this state, and many I will tell you around this country, they are in our thoughts and prayers, and we will continue with that. We ask for your patience as we continue through this, and we'll continue to try to give you as many updates with information as we can to keep you informed. But thank you for being here. I'm now going to turn it over to Barrow County Sheriff Judge Smith. Thank you.
Director, would you spell your name, please?
H-O-S-E-Y.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Sheriff Judge Smith at the Barrow County Sheriff's Office. I never imagined that I would be speaking to the media in my career over something that happened today, the pure evil that happened today. I cannot thank the people behind me for the support they give me today, to give this office and give this staff. This hits home for me. I was born and raised here. I went to school in this school system. My kids go to this school system.
Mm.
I'm proud of this school system. My heart hurts for these kids. My heart hurts for our community. But I want to make it very clear that hate will not prevail in this county. I want that to be very clear and known. Love will prevail over what happened today. I assure you of that. It is very early as to what happened. Governor Kemp reached out to me and has provided me every single resource that he has to make sure justice prevails. I don't know why it happened. I may not ever know. We may not ever know. But I ask that you and our community lift up our schools, lift up our public safety, and that, again, we do not let this hateful event prevail as to what happened today. I want to thank the surrounding agencies and counties and cities and state and federal authorities that have come and provided us, because they prevented a lot of more tragic events from happening. Continue to lift up these families, continue to lift up our students and our kids, and know that love will prevail. At this time, I'm going to ask Dr. LaDuff, our school superintendent, to come and speak on behalf of the school.
Good afternoon. I'm Dallas LaDuff. I'm the superintendent of Bexar County School System. I want to thank the Bexar County Sheriff's Office and all of our law enforcement partners for their swift response today, along with that of our staff. I'd also like to thank our community for their response and patience as we work to reunify the students with their families here today and secure the rest of our school campuses. Our schools will be closed for the remainder of this week as we cooperate fully with law enforcement to get answers to the many questions that we all have about this incident here today. But as we are closed, our central offices will remain open, where we will have grief counseling available for our community every day this week and thereafter as we support each other through this terrible event. In closing, I just want to say to our community, as a school system, we are here for you. We support you, and we are ready to get you any support that you may need as we grieve through this together. Thank you.
Sheriff, if you're saying hate will not prevail in this community, are you investigating this as some sort of hate crime?
Well, shortly, if someone decides to take a firearm into a school where kids are given an education or entitled to an education and want to harm others, to me, it's hateful.
Sure is.
Talk about the initial interaction between whoever was able to stop the shooter. Can you describe that to us? How did it go down? What exactly happened for us?
Obviously, the shooter was armed, and our school resource officer engaged him. And the shooter quickly realized that if he did not give up, that it would end with an OIS, or an officer-involved shooting. He gave up, got on the ground, and the deputy took him into custody.
Sheriff, any idea how the weapon got inside the school? And was there any warning that this was going to happen?
Not that I'm aware of. Again, very early, and we're still looking into that, whether or not, or how he obtained it and how he got it in the school.
Parents or his family to learn more about.
That was my question.
We have.
Any information you can share?
No.
What kind of weapon was
It seems like you have a large Hispanic population. Have you been able to communicate with the people in their language to make sure that everybody knows what's happening?
Yes, sir, I have. The school and our office has people that speak in Spanish, and they have spoke to those folks as well. Yes.
How is video surveillance helping the sheriff?
With the law enforcement now?
Sorry.
Is the shooter talking? Is he saying why?
The shooter was interviewed, and he was speaking with our investigators earlier, along with the GBI.
How is that video surveillance? How's that helping the sheriff?
It is helping our investigation. Sheriff is none that I'm aware of.
Were all 9 injured victims shot?
In some capacity, yes.
Sheriff, can you tell us about the 2 individuals deceased and was one targeted?
We don't know of any targets at this point.
Sheriff, what kind of weapon was used? Have you identified the weapon?
We have not identified that at this point. No.
Sheriff, is there a connection?
This is the last question I'm gonna take.
Sheriff, is there a connection between the shooter and the victims?
None that I'm aware of.
I know that you have a lot of questions about the student and that we mentioned that we identified earlier. Keep in mind that that's part of our investigation, that we're looking into every aspect of that individual, his connection here at the school. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, he was a student here. So as part of our investigation, we're looking into all aspects, current and prior, involving that individual.
Can you tell us how many rounds were fired? Can you tell us how many rounds were fired?
Do what?
The shooter is a student, yes.
When can we expect the
We do not know how many rounds.
Director, has that shooter had any past history with law enforcement?
For now, this is the information that we have. It is an active investigation. I assure you, we do plan to come back out here in a couple of hours. Please make sure you're following the GBIX page. That's where we're going to be putting the updates. If there's anything that's new, we'll make sure that we share that information. It's still very early. Investigators have a lot of work to do. We appreciate your patience. Do expect another in-person news conference out here in the next few hours. Monitor the X page, and we will be sure to update you accordingly. Thank you.
And that's the on x.com.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Also sharing in that grief as we got an update from law enforcement as they now walk off from the podium. And the latest information, a lot of new information came out of that, Sean, identifying the shooter as a 14-year-old student, which many people will struggle to believe in all that. We know that 4 people were dead. 2 of them were students. 2 of them were teachers killed. This is a murder investigation. We know that suspect will be tried as an adult. There was a lot that came up several times about the response by law enforcement, how quick the response is. And that goes back to the shooting in Uvalde, because there was so much criticism against law enforcement there in Texas. And how
in fact, some
quick-
people lost their jobs because of the response. But we're hearing from both GBI, from the school superintendent, also from the sheriff here in Barrow County, that there was according to them, the response time was quick. And that, in fact, the 14-year-old suspect who was a student at Appalachia High School, there were 2 resource officers who were armed, who confronted the 14-year-old student. And according to the sheriff, the student knew that it was not going to end positively for that student if he did not surrender. They said he surrendered peacefully. He was then confiscated and then taken into police custody. We've learned that student is 14-year-old Colt Gray. He was a student here at Appalachia High School. Again, 2 students are among the fatalities, as well as 2 teachers that are dead. We're not giving the names. They also said that the injuries to those 9 individuals who were hurt in this incident suffered some type of gunshot wound.
We also heard that the suspect, obviously in custody now, but is helping with the investigation and is talking with investigators, which is a key component to figure out why all this took place today as they sort this through and they investigate not only what happened inside there, but what he's saying about what happened that day.
So a lot of people are probably wondering, if you have children at Appalachia High School, we have learned from the school superintendent that classes will be dismissed all this week. There will be no school.
All right, so they're talking, about schools being closed the rest of this week, which makes sense. These kids went through something horrific, and to learn that it was indeed a 14-year-old who attended this high school that killed 2 of his teachers and 2 of his classmates, injured 9 others, traumatized hundreds, if not thousands, in that community. And one thing that the the sheriff had stated is there was a question about how the gun got into the school. And that is a question that I also had wondered. But, you know, where I work, metal detectors are only at the main entrance. They're not at any other door. So there are instances where a student may let another student in. Maybe they came in late. They don't want to have to go through the main office. Things happen. But to think that, you know, and I think Bree had said it about, where was that comment? Here, there's no such thing as, quote, surrendered peacefully after murdering 4 people and injuring 9 others. Yeah. Because there's nothing peaceful about what he did, and he's a coward. That's what he is. To go into a school where, you know, your teachers, other students, we don't know anything about this kid, but, you know, like the sheriff said, clearly it's a hate crime. He went in and killed people. You have to have hate in your heart to have to want to injure someone to the point where they are no longer alive. Yeah, sweet crazy. I mean, I don't know how, you know, years ago we did a training on Alice training, which is active shooter training. And the trainer, the first thing he said is, we're trying to prevent a CNN moment, because when CNN shows up at your school, something horrible has happened. And he wasn't lying. Thanks, Happy Watcher. I appreciate that. Yes, don't forget to hit the like and sub if you haven't. I do lots of different things here. Yeah, 14. And that you know, I was going to work on a short later today of an 11-year-old. 11 was just charged with 2 counts of murder. I don't remember even really, I mean, I knew what guns were when I was 11 because my dad was a hunter. But for an 11-year-old to pick up a weapon and say, I'm going to kill these 2 people, I can't wrap my head around it at all. So I have one last video that I'm going to show, and then I'm going to wrap this up, because like I said, I hadn't necessarily planned on going live because school started, and I have some things to do, because tomorrow our students, first day for students tomorrow. It should be exciting. This is another video of a student who recalled what occurred. So we're just going to listen to this, and
I'm going to get out to Fox 5's Kevin Stewart, who's live on that road where so many parents have been streaming into the campus to try to retrieve their children. Kevin, obviously the parents extremely concerned, upset, and full of anxiety
it's a beautiful
after what
school.
Transpired this morning there
Absolutely
at Appalachia
beautiful.
High.
Oh, without a doubt. You see the families walking up and down. To be honest, the most touching interview I had with a young man, 17 years old, student here at Appalachia High School, wasn't at school today. He said he skipped school, go to a college event. He came here looking for one of his classmates. He was clearly very broken up. We talked to him, didn't show his face.
Okay, I believe this account, and this is where witness accounts aren't necessarily always reliable, because you're in fight or flight mode. And so this is where the account that this kid gave this reporter wasn't necessarily correct.
And we're going to try to turn that sound around for you in a little bit. But he was clearly very upset because his friend would not answer his texts, would not answer his phone calls. He was very concerned. In fact, I also had a chance to talk to a parent who went through a lot of that angst herself. She was trying to get a hold of her daughter, Melanie. Fortunately, she did get a hold of her, and we had a chance to talk with her. Take a listen.
Oh, maybe it's not the same one. Sorry about that.
Well, it was a lot of anxiety trying to be able to get in contact with Melanie, not being able to get a response from her, no phone calls, no text messages, getting here, going to a football field, and then I see my daughter waving at me from up there, and then being able to hug my daughter and see her again, but it's a terrible feeling.
Is it the kid I was talking about? Okay. And so obviously a very touching situation there. We talked to her daughter as well, who was a sophomore here at Appalachian High School, and she told me about the drill situation. She said they've only gone through one drill that she can recall, and this was an opportunity to put that into action. Take a listen.
First, they said it was a drill. Then they ended up saying it wasn't a drill no more, and that it was for real. Next thing you know it, we heard people were sending messages to each other saying it's not a drill. It's an actual shooting. Be careful and, stay safe. And then when I figured it out, I texted my mom. My mom had told me I love you, and I was scared because I was like, what if I never see my parents again? So I was crying, trying to make sure I was like to stay safe. Like I was scared, fighting.
Yeah, it's a scary situation. We never know what we wake up to in the morning, and I know no telling what will happen during the course of the day. And that was one of those things that you take for granted, that you send your child off to school, they're coming back from the child saying, "I'll see you later, Mom. I'll see you later, Dad." And that family clearly that was going through their mind, trying to figure out, what's next. I didn't expect this, and that is a story that we expect to hear from a lot of people. And
Oh, and it ended. All right. So I just wanted to check Twitter again just to see. I don't think there's necessarily anything more. There's unconfirmed accounts that one of the victims was a special education math teacher. However, law enforcement has not confirmed that, so I am going to hold off on stating his name. But again, two students and 2 teachers lost their lives today. 9 others injured, hundreds traumatized, if not thousands, because a 14-year-old decided to go to school with a gun and shoot people. I will never understand it. And I hope to God it never happens in a school that I work at. The fact that school just started not even a month ago, right? In Georgia, I'm pretty sure they start a few weeks before the Northeast. They hadn't even been in school a month, and this happens. I don't get it. Yeah, trying to find your friends, trying to get a hold of your parents. Some students didn't have their cell phones, and so parents weren't able to get a hold of them, or vice versa. So hopefully one of their friends had a phone. But then how many kids memorize their parents' numbers? I know my mom's cell phone number, but I don't know my dad's by heart. I know my sister's, but yeah, devastating, and parents' worst fears. We need to stop the mass shootings. And not just children. I mean, think about the splash pad. The splash pad that man went to a family place on Father's Day and opened fire. And how do these people think they have the right to inflict that type of pain onto people? And then in that case, the guy took his own life. Freaking coward. Like, at least this little boy, because 14, he will have to face his consequences. And I hope that I don't know if Georgia has the death penalty. I'm going to actually, let me Google that. There is the death penalty in Georgia. There is the death penalty in Georgia. But, okay, so it says, according to the Georgia Department of Corrections, anyone who commits a capital crime after May 1st, 2000 and receives a death sentence will be executed by lethal injection. But I don't know if there is an age limit on the death penalty. I would assume that prosecutors would not seek the death penalty in a case involving a 14-year-old child. However, if you're being charged as an adult and it's a capital crime, I don't know. That's something I would have to look into. Hey, AMAC, thanks for being here. Yeah, children aren't obtaining firearms legally. There are systematic problems in parental responsibility that need to be addressed. Yeah. I agree, Chopper. Enough is enough. And it's not going to stop. On my way home, one of the reporters had said, it's sad that, I mean, I'm still shocked. I'm still shaken. I'm still sad for this community and the people in the school. Many of us are not. It's happenstance these days. It's happenstance. And I just wasn't even thinking necessarily of, violence in schools. But I guess I should have, because school started in a lot of schools already. It just... Oh, thanks, Josh. I appreciate that. I worry about my grandbabies now, not like I did with my kids. We didn't have this crap going on like now. I remember in high school, I mean, my high school was maybe 500 kids. And that's generous. That's generous. Maybe 500. I remember having to evacuate the school because someone had called in a bomb threat. So they had the buses. We had to get on the buses. They brought us to a safe place, away from the school. It was unfounded. But I don't remember, anything. We didn't have metal detectors either in high school. They didn't search our bags. We could have backpacks. We could, the only thing they did ban were hats. They banned hats. But that's a different story. Grandma Sherry, thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, Josh, yeah, I would worry too. So your school started the second week of August in East Tennessee and surrounding areas. So about 3 weeks. This is probably the third week. Oh, wow, Bambi, August 1st. So you've been in school for a month. And then I think too, like with what True Jedi said, that 14-year-old had access to the gun and was able to unlock it if it was locked. But even to handle a gun, I think of, that 11-year-old. How would he have known how to use a gun? How did this 14-year-old know? I mean, video games, I guess you can kind of visualize how to, but I'm guessing it's a lot different than doing it in real life. And I'm curious to know where this kid got this weapon too, because I mean, it seems like a very small community. Not that there's not anything, there's nefarious things going on in every community, in my opinion. That's one question I have, though. Yeah, Sunnyside, I guess that goes for not even kids, just, adults too. I don't know my kids' numbers by heart. They're just programmed in my phone. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Troll, not for a minor, for the death penalty. And that reminds me, there's another case I wanted to look at, and I just haven't had time. She's also, I believe, 15-year-old girl is being charged with killing her mom and injuring her stepdad. And they had offered her a plea deal of 50 years in prison. And she declined it. So she is going to trial very soon. And I need to make a note. I keep looking at the screenshot in my phone, and I keep forgetting to get that together. Hey, Kel, thank you so much. Yeah, Sunnyside. So many innocent people's lives are forever changed in the blink of an eye. Seconds. And no one did, maybe I missed it, but I don't think anyone at the press conference had asked about the previous, receiving a phone call stating that there were 5 schools on the list and this one was first. Josh B., thank you so much for being a member for 1 month. I appreciate that. Yes, Chopper, I did see that. I did see that they gave her 9th lawyer. But she did not win a motion to delay her trial again. So kudos to the judge for denying that motion, because George deserves justice, and this woman needs to pay for what she did. She is playing games, and it's not funny. It's not funny. So thanks everyone for being here. It's always great to see you all. Not so much under these circumstances, but I hope that everyone has a great night. If they do happen to have another press conference, I probably won't go live because I have, tomorrow's a big day. But I will share it on my community page. So thanks everyone for being here, and I probably won't be live again until Friday. So I hope everyone has a great rest of your night. And until next time, I will see you on the flip side.